Gentlemen, I think it's time for us to have a bit of a chat about a unit that's in Wuthering Waves. It's going to be none other than Iuno. And there have been some posts that I've seen recently and some discussions regarding the specificity of her kit, and I want to put in the effort to do a bit of a breakdown of where I think the discussion is getting a little bit too muddled. And so we've got this post over here from the Iuno main subreddit. It's really hard to find meta-related posts over here. All you see are screenshots and artwork, if you know what I mean. Anyways, so this is the post from Iuno main subreddit. Such a shame Iuno is locked behind Augusta to be a very good support. Her buffs are so good, but she doesn't carry the shield to others, meaning the shield is useless outside of putting the buffs on herself. Still, I will pull, but the direction of the character design is going is fucking worrying. So, I think it's time for us to do an honest review, right, of this take. When it comes to Iuno's kit, this is the dynamic that the poster is talking about. Essentially, Iuno, in her Forte circuit, has this one line called the Blessing of Wan Light. And what this means is that when somebody gains a shield inside the domain that she creates when she goes through her rotation, they'll essentially gain 4% all damage amplification for 10 seconds. And that stacks up to 10 times for 40% damage amp. That's quite a lot, right? That's crazy. And the reality of the situation is that Augusta is currently going to be one of the only characters that's going to have any uptime on this damage amplification at all. And the reason for that is quite simple, right? Augusta goes in, and with her inherent skill, she actually triggers a shield every single time she deals damage. This basically works alongside her weapon, and this works alongside her Sonata set as well. Iuno, with her own kit design, she also creates shields every single time she attacks as well. So Iuno's is on a bit of a, well, she has no cooldown at all on her effect. Augusta has one that caps it out at once every half second. The idea is that, well, both of those two characters, Augusta and Iuno, are going to be able to benefit from this Blessing of Wan Light effect. And this is the thing, right? That's where this post is originating from. People believe that A, because other characters aren't going to be able to activate that 40% damage amp, Iuno is basically an Augusta-only unit. And this is what I'm going to say over here. That is not true. And the reason for that is pretty simple. Iuno has this one thing in her kit that will make her probably one of the most flexible, and I think actually a best-in-slot character on a lot of teams in the game. Because this is the thing. Iuno is like the premium of the premium units. And that's because she provides healing. You can see over here, she's got healing in a lot of different areas around her kit. You can see her Forte circuit's got like 1, 2, 3, she's got like 7 sources of healing built into her mechanics. And this is what she also does. She provides healing and then also provides a full damage 50% heavy attack damage amplification on top of that 40%, right, that only her and Augusta can get. And this is the situation. She provides a fully damaging outro skill buff, and then also provides healing. That is a dynamic that very few characters in the game can actually provide as well. And she's actually a best in slot on a lot of teams that I feel like a lot of people aren't actually aware of. So let's start talking about those. So with her buffs in mind, her healing and her 50% heavy attack damage amp, these are some of the lineups that I'll just talk about right now. And we'll use Mortifi as the stand-in for Iuno. So naturally, this team over here is going to be potentially Iuno's best in slot, right? With 2 characters benefiting from 40% damage amplification. It's gonna be crazy. But you wanna know one thing that Iuno is not doing in this team? She's not healing. Because you already have Shorekeeper over here to cover all of the sustain needs of this lineup. And guess what, guys? You're not really gonna have a third better character to put in than a healer in the Augusta team because of how hypercarry centric she is. And so, when you're playing Iuno in this team, her healing is effectively useless. The healing that's a part of her power budget and the healing that she has across almost every ability in her Forte, that's doing literally close to nothing because you already have a sustain. That's kind of like the trade-off with Iuno's kit. She trades her healing and her flexibility for damage amplification because it's got no use over here. And that is what I believe kind of makes her kit feel at least a little bit more balanced, right? You've got one part that's useless in other teams, but it's useful in other ones. And here, Iuno's healing, presented by Mortifi, doesn't do anything at all. Now, let's talk about another team where Iuno's damage amplification doesn't really do anything, but her healing is really good. And that's this team over here, where you got Zani, Phoebe, and of course, Mortifi. And when you take a look at the outro skills of this team, right? Zani is just focused entirely around dealing damage, doesn't really matter too much. But what Phoebe does is Phoebe basically provides the damage amp of a sub DPS while also not being restricted by swaps. You can see Mortifi over here has the line until they are switched out. Phoebe has 100% spectral frazzle damage amplification for 30 seconds with no swapping issues. And so, this is essentially what you gain access to if you use Iuno in this team, ladies and gentlemen. You're able to get the 100% Spectral Frazzle damage amp, then gain 50% heavy attack damage amp, and then healing, because these two characters don't have healing. And you want to know why this team is rough to play? It's specifically because Mortifi has no healing at all built into his kit. And so when you run this team, if you get hit twice, it's basically your run's ogre. You're done. Your Zani or somebody else will be like dead. And when you run Iuno in here, you'll be able to cap out on this like absurd amount of damage amplification. And then guess what, guys? You're also gonna get the healing and the sustain on the side to bring it all home. And when Zani's the only character dealing damage on this team, believe me when I say this, Phoebe's not doing damage, Mortifi's doing a little bit, you're gonna put your Iuno on the Rejuvenating Glow set to give that attack buff to like herself and the Zani, or you put her on like Moonlit Clouds or something. I don't know what you feel like doing, right? And then your Zani is going to be absolutely nuts with all the damage amp that she's going to be able to work with. And guess what, guys? This is why I'm saying Iuno's going to be like the premium of the premium unit. Because this team with the Verena or a Shorekeeper naturally already clears, right? But you'll be able to take it to the next level and try out even like more strategies with Iuno. Because she's got that healing and then that damage amplification combination. And even 12% more amp than Mortifi, because he only gives 38. That's the first team that I've covered, outside of her clear best in slot. Now, let's talk about another one that she's going to be absolutely insane with. And of course, we're going to see this unit again. It's going to be this team. And so, for the purpose of this demo, we'll switch him back to Spectral Rover. You all know about this lineup, right? Phoebe, Spectral Rover, alongside Mortifi. And this team actually works, right? Because Spectral Rover has healing. But unfortunately, right, Spectral Rover's healing is not particularly very strong. And the reality is over here, this team's at a lot of risk of actually dying. Imagine if your Spectral Rover can, like, instead still stay on Rejuvenating Glow. You put your Iuno on, like, Moonlit Clouds. And then you have Phoebe coming in with all of Spectral Rover's reduction, all of their buffs. Then you got like the 50% heavy attack damage amplification for Mortifi as well. I'm pretty sure your Phoebe is going to be absolutely popping off with this team in comparison. And she's probably going to feel a lot more safe while she's in the middle of the process. Mortifi's team could potentially still edge out on top because of his 20% attack buff, but in this situation over here, this just provides even more safety if you're using Iuno, because the healing on Spectral Rover isn't particularly high. And once again, it's a third team that she has really great viability on, simply due to the fact that she has the healing built into her kit. So now we got one team where her healing is useless, but her damage amp works. But we've got two teams where her healing is super important, but her damage amp, the 40% one from stacking shields, isn't active. But wait, there's more. Guys, there's actually a third team in the game. Are you ready for it? This one's gonna blow your socks off. And that's gonna be this one, guys. The Jiyan, Ciaccona, and Iuno team comp, where Jiyan's naturally going to be the main DPS, absorbing all those different outro skills. Ciaccona's going to come in. Hopefully you have her weapon, but she's going to reduce arrow resistance, and then also with Gusts of Welkin, right, provide a 15% arrow damage bonus to the entire team. And then guess what, guys? I know this is Mortifi, but pretend she's Iuno. Iuno's going to be arrow. Yuno's gonna also provide healing in this team as well, because, well, guess what, guys? Ciaccona and Jiyan and Mortifi, the team right now, it doesn't have a healer, and this is one of the most fragile teams in the game. It can be strong, it can actually be Jiyan's best team, but the fact it doesn't have healing is actually a significant part about why it gets held back. And now you're gonna have a character that buffs more than Mortifi, at least on the outro side, maybe not on the attack side, especially when he has Static Mist, but she's gonna provide the healing that makes this team comfortable to play. And then Yuno's also gonna deal arrow damage, so she's gonna get buffed from Gust of Welkin, and then she's also gonna get buffed from the weapon Ciaccona has as well, if that's being used. So guys, we've just covered 4 teams that, in my honest opinion, are probably going to get meaningfully improved or simply have new ways to play them or a lot more comfort in playing them if you acquire Iuno. My main complaints when it comes to Yuno's kit isn't actually her flexibility and the teams, because she literally has 3 teams that have been created in the game that have become way more viable simply because she has healing built into her kit. And yes, she only has 1 team where the damage amp works, the 40% damage amp, but her damage amp is going to work on her regardless of the team that she's on. And on the team where the damage amp works, guys, her healing is meaningless. So her kit kind of really just seems balanced to me. It seems like it has trade-offs where part of it works in one team and then the other part of it doesn't work in others. And yes, it is a little bit unfortunate that the damage amp, which, you know, we all know that's a really, really, really powerful stat, feels so hard to activate if you're not using Augusta. But healing is also a really, really, really rare stat as well. And not a lot of units have a fully tailored outro skill buff while also healing at the same time. Not a lot of them do. And so this is actually a major, major advantage that Iuno is bringing to the table. Now, this is the thing, and I think this is going to be something that I think I should just naturally talk about since we are covering her kit. I've done a lot of glazing, right? For the variability, for the adjustability, for the flexibility of Iuno. Like, with her kit design, that's when I'm talking about her kit design. And, well, I haven't talked a lot about the cons. My main issues with Iuno's kit isn't her baseline kit. I think her baseline kit, based off all the reasoning that I provided, is completely fine. My issues with her design stem from her sequence nodes, because every single one, aside from her S2, is focused entirely on her personal damage. I guess except her S4, but her S4 is just such a piece of dog shit that it almost doesn't make sense why this is in the game. Unless this S4 works, where it's like a slowly regenerating shield that like refreshes itself and then activates her buff on her entire team, maybe. But this just looks like it provides 1 instance of shielding, so 4% damage amp. Like, her sequence nodes are just like, they literally transform her into a main DPS, but it's also like, her S2 only works on 2 characters in the game. Her S2 works on Augusta, and it works on her. That's just bad design. It's just bad design from the perspective of, people are pissed that this sequence node is, like, so constrained and only works on one or 2 characters. And it's also like, they're also just not gonna pull for it because it's so constrained and bad. So it's just like a loss for everybody. Because I'm just gonna be real, guys. Who cares how balanced your fucking sequence nodes are? The point of the game is for the characters to be balanced at S0. The pulling an S1 or an S2 is never really an expectation in any game outside of... Oh, wait, it's an expectation in every Hoyoverse game. My bad. Yeah, I forgot. Mr. Pokey told me if you don't S2 every support, you're greedy and stupid. Same thing with, like, your Farina and your Raiden Shogun and shit. My bad. Anyways, the trend in Wuthering Waves is that no character ever needs to be S1 or S2 to clear content. And that's why every unit's S2 in this game is, like, fucking broken. Like, guys, like... This one just gives 40% attack to everybody. You put this shit into your team and you deal like so much more damage. It's fucking ridiculous. Like, there are already so many S2s that already like break the fuck out. This gives him 30% crit rate. Like, there are so many S2s already that are just like straight up absurdly fucking strong. Like, Carlotta's makes her deal, like, almost 1,000,000 damage because it just increases the damage multiplier by 126%. Like, was it so much to ask for her to have an S2 that worked on more than one character? Maybe with 0 stacks, right, it gives the 40, and then with the 10 stacks, it gives 80. I don't know, right? Like, surely there was a way to make it so that this didn't feel like shit. Sure. She gives herself a 40% damage amp at S2. That's literally worse than other DPS nodes. And this is the thing. It's clearly tied to a buff that only works on one other character. And nobody really likes this one. And the worst part about all of it is that S2s are typically like where most low spenders go to. Most people stop at an S2 because that's how many copies you can just pull from the shop. Right? You could just go ahead, spend 720 corals, and get S2. And so for Iuno's S2 to feel that restrictive, to feel like it only works on 1 or 2 characters in the game, and then it sort of works on her, it's just like, it feels like you're getting like half of the value that you typically would. Because 40% damage amp is like, okay, right? It's like great, but it's not like Iuno at S2 has a lot of multipliers to fully capitalize on anyways. Because, guys, you can just read the rest of Iuno's sequence nodes, right? And, oh, there's more damage bonuses in here. The damage multiplier is increased by 1,600%. So, you would begin to realize that the damage amp over here doesn't really mean that much unless there's, like, multiplier bonuses that occur over here. So, as far as I'm concerned, she gains 40% attack and then 40% more damage amp. And then, like, more amp over here, liberation damage, and then a 1,600% multiplier increase. That's, like, kind of what it is, right? She's meant to be an S6, or, like, she's honestly, like, an S6, or, like, don't even get her nodes character. And I think that's awful design. Either get her S6, or don't get a single one of her sequence nodes. That's what she feels like. And so, I know she has a lot of flexibility. I know we talked a lot about those before, right? The multiple teams she can be used on. Those teams don't get any better at all when you get any of her sequence nodes. All you're going to do is improve her personal damage. And so she only has one team in the game that feels like it gets meaningful boosts from her sequence nodes. It's this one. And then all these other ones that we talked about get nothing. They get absolutely fucking nothing. And I think that's bad design. But that's the main part that I think is bad design. How none of her, like, more flexible teams get any benefit from her nodes. And I would just send the feedback to Kuro. Don't make nodes like this ever again. Or if you are going to make, like, and do this whole personal DPS, like, you transform them into a main DPS, at least give them some ability to transfer their buffs the more copies you get. Don't make the S6 feel this fucking bad. So, yeah, I don't know who they listened to. Maybe it was, like, Fob or Brax. Like, maybe they were, like, sucking on Solon's toes at Kuro Fest and, like, begging him to, like, make Iuno a main DPS. Yeah, they kind of fucked it all up for the rest of us if that's what happened. So, yeah, that'll be that for this one, ladies and gentlemen. I think we've gotten into where I think Iuno's kit really shines, where I think she falls a little bit short, and hopefully this outline and descriptions, right, you know, breakdowns of all the synergies was helpful in your decision of whether or not to pull her. I think you get her at S1. I don't even think you get her weapon. I think you get her at S1 and you pull her for the flexibility, but you go no further than there because she rewards investment, let's just say very poorly, unless you plan on just playing her as a main DPS. So yeah, that'll be that for this one. Let me know what you all thought. Peace.